Yes, we're back. How's everybody doing? I'm going to be talking about the BRRRR method today, and I'm excited to present this information to you. The BRRRR method is the number one, in my opinion, the number one way to really build your portfolio. If you're looking to have multiple streams of income, if you're looking to build generational wealth and really leave a legacy, the BRRRR method is the best way. So this is really for real estate agents. Of course, real estate agents are near and dear to my heart. One of the reasons why is because I see a lot of real estate agents just kind of selling real estate, not making making a great living, but not investing in their future. And so using BRRRR is a great way for you to invest in your future. Obviously, the BRRRR method is a great strategy for real estate investors, and a lot of my real estate investors use BRRRR. I use BRRRR. BRRRR stands for buy the property right, renovate the property, rent the property, refinance the property, and then repeat that process all over again. And I've used the BRRRR method a number of times, and I'm glad to do that. Here's why. I'm always stuck in the dilemma of when I find a property, should I flip the property and make a lump sum of money? Here in our area, the average flip we're making about $100,000. The consequences of that is the negative part about flipping a property is there's tax consequences. It's a great payday, but it's only one payday. And then when you're flipping a property, there's no cash flow. And like I said, the money that you do make on a flip, there's capital gain taxes you have to pay. We all should be buying and holding, but the problem with buying and holding is you've got your money tied up. You can't recirculate your money like you can when you flip. You flip a property, you get your money back plus a nice lump sum of profit between $70,000 and $100,000. The BRRRR method actually ties the two together. And so you're buying these properties using this strategy where it is a buy and hold, but you actually get all the money that you put up, you actually get back. Whether you're putting up the money with your cash or somebody else's money or cash, a hard money lender, a private lender, line of credit, you're replenishing that money. And in a lot of cases, you actually have money actually left over, but the money that you replenish, you get to use that money all over again to buy another property and build your cash flow. So there's not a better strategy in real estate investing to really build your portfolio because you're using the same money. I always like to say, and I suggest to my investors, is buy one property a year, one buy and hold property a year. But with this method, you can actually buy more. Or if you just want to stick to that strategy, one a year, you're recycling the same money. You're using the same money using the BRRRR strategy. And so there's not a better way to really build your portfolio. So really study this strategy. I've been using it for a few years now. I actually bought a property in Annapolis, Maryland. It was a foreclosure. I ran my numbers, and for what they were selling the property for, which I believe at the time was somewhere around $200,000. House had about 3 feet of mold in the basement, and so we must have spent about, I don't know, maybe $70,000 in renovating that property. Took us about 3 or 4 months to renovate the property. And so I borrowed the money to acquire the property from a hard money lender, and I got the renovation money from that same hard money lender. So that hard money lender put up all the money. I was actually able to get a private lender to put up the money for renovation, for closing costs, and to get me started with the first draw on the renovation. So I literally put up no money. But even if I had put up money, I would have put up about $20,000 of my own money just for closing costs and get the renovation started. We got the renovation started, renovated the house. We rented the house. After we renovated the house, we put the house on the market. Now, the hard money lenders that I use, I don't make a monthly payment. I pay them at the end of the term, and generally the term is 6 months. So it's generally a short-term loan. A hard money loan is a short-term loan. It's generally 6 months to a year, but mine is generally 6 months. So within that 6 months, I renovated the property, and then I rented the property out. I was primarily looking for a voucher holder, Section 8. And so we went to the Section 8 office in Anne Arundel County. We applied for Section 8 rental. They came and we had to do they did a lead inspection, and then they did a home inspection, and then they put my name on the list there. Got a few applicants come look at the property, chose one, so we rented the property out, Section 8, and probably around the 5th month. And so after we rented the property out, I actually went to get long-term finance. I actually used my line of credit. I have a line of credit with a community bank that put permanent financing on the property. They did an appraisal, and that property at that time appraised for, I believe it appraised for around 400, 420. They didn't give me so then there was a difference between what I owed the hard money lender and the appraised value. And so they ran their calculation. I think they gave me somewhere around an 80, probably a 75% loan to value. So they didn't give me the full 400. They gave me 80% of that. And so I believe that was around $320,000. And so with that 320, they put a note on the property for $320,000. I paid back the hard money lender. I paid back the private lender. And then I had a little bit of money left over for myself. So I literally bought that property with no money down, actually walked away with money in my pocket. I had a property in Annapolis, Maryland, that was rented, that was cash flowing. I think we started off around $500 a month in positive cash flow. Today, the property is worth about probably a little over $500,000. So I have close to $200,000 in equity in that property. And so I just kept going and just kept using the BRRRR method. And, I haven't looked back. So that's an example, you guys, of the BRRRR method. And so I'll go step by step. Go in the comment section. Let me know if you have any questions. So I'm going to go step by step on what you actually need to do to really get started and understand the process. And I'll give you, towards the end, some more examples of properties that I have purchased. And I've actually purchased in Baltimore, Maryland. I've used the BRRRR method on multiple properties, getting one loan, refinancing with one loan on 3 at one time. And one time I did 4 using the BRRRR method. So we'll talk about those things. All right. So look, first thing is in the BRRRR method, the first B is buying the property. I like to say buy it right. And so like any other property, you guys, and in real estate investing, you're just not like willy-nilly buying a property. There's a method to your madness. And so when we say buy the property right, even with BRRRR, you've got to use the Mayo formula. And so I use Mayo for everything that I do. Mayo stands for maximum allowable offer. And so I actually use that formula, the Mayo formula, when I buy property. So again, whether it's BRRRR or even when I'm buying and holding, definitely fixing and flipping, definitely when I'm wholesaling, I use the Mayo formula. Mayo stands for maximum allowable offer. It's the maximum that you're allowing yourself to offer the motivated seller who's selling the property. Even if the motivated seller is the bank, you use that formula. The formula is you take 70% of the after repair value, or we call it the ARV, After repair value is what the house is worth once it's completely renovated. So once you have new roof, new windows, new siding, new flooring, paint, new kitchen, new bathrooms, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, once it's completely renovated, what's the value? And we call that the ARV, after repair value. So the formula is 70% of the after repair value minus repair costs. And when whatever that number is what you're offering the motivated seller. And that's what we call buying the property right. And so if you're taking notes, let me just give you a kind of a scenario or case study. Let's say you've ran the comps, either you've ran the comps if you're a real estate agent, or you're able to get a real estate agent to run comps for you. If you're using CRMs like PropStream, Real eFlow, sometimes if you know how to work Zillow can give you not the Zestimate, which is the average, but the higher end of the Zestimate is generally your after repair value, even if you're not a real estate agent. So let's say the after repair value on a property is $300,000. And so we take 70% of 300,000 is 210,000. And then we've got to get the repair costs. Now you've got to try to go to the property, get the repair costs, take a handyman, take a contractor, take a coach, mentor, take someone there that can estimate the repair costs if you can't. Now listen, here's a shortcut. If you cannot estimate repair costs, you don't have a coach or mentor or contractor around you, what we generally do is take 20% of the after repair value, and we generally use that as our repair cost. So there's no excuse. Just use the calculation. Generally speaking, when I'm renovating a property, I don't want to go over 20% of the after repair value. So in this case, 20% of 300,000 is 60,000. And so we plug that number in because the formula is 70% of the after repair value minus repair costs. And so 70% of the 300,000 is 210. If we take $60,000 and use that as repair costs, we're at 150, which means buying the property right, even in using the BRRRR method, buying a property right, we're buying a property for 150,000. We're trying to put that property under contract. I would suggest not putting it under contract any higher than that. There's just a lot of unknowns, change orders, things like that, that you just don't want to be involved in. So you want to buy the property right. And kind of at the end of this, I'll talk about mistakes that investors make on buying properties wrong. So you want to buy it right. There's a lot of properties out here. Myself and a lot of my investors that I coach are just buying properties, especially in this day and age where there's lots of short sales now and coming, lots of foreclosures now and coming once some of the moratoriums are lifted. And so there's lots of great deals. So the first B, buy the property right. Use the formula to let you know that you're buying the property right. Also, we don't get permanent financing initially. Initially, we use either our own cash or somebody else's cash, a hard money lender, a private lender, a line of credit like a HELOC, or if you have a line of credit, you can use your line of credit. But we want to get temporary financing. So once we renovate the property and rent it out, we can then refinance and pay that money back. And then the last thing I want to say about buying a property right, before you buy the property, and this is a big mistake that a lot of investors make, you want to get financing. You want to get your future financing, your refi. You want to get that financing. You want to get a pre-approval letter before you even start. So before you even buy the property, you guys, listen to this. Before you buy the property, you want to get approval, a pre-approval, so when you refinance, you've already been approved. And so you want to make sure that you do that, because one of the mistakes that I see is investors buying a property using the BRRRR method. Then when it comes to getting refinanced, they rehabbed it, they renovated it. Now, I mean, they've renovated it, they've rented it, Now it's time to refinance. They can't refinance. They either have credit issues, or they bought the property wrong, or if they have to put up any money, which they shouldn't have to, they don't have the money. And so you want to get pre-approved initially before you even, ratify that initial contract. All right, so buy the property right. Number two is to renovate the property. So buy the property and then renovate the property. I suggest, I really don't like doing what we consider full gut jobs on, or full renovation on my properties that I buy with BRRRR. I generally try to focus on what I consider cosmetic renovations, kitchen, baths, flooring, paint, that kind of thing. Windows, roof. I had never put additions on properties. You can add value, and I do know of a couple of investors that use BRRRR on major renovations, and it works for them. But just for me, I would highly recommend for you, especially if you're starting, just do cosmetic renovations, because if you get into what we call gut jobs or renovations that are going to take 9 months, a year, there's so many problems that can occur all along the way with dealing with contractors, with dealing with change orders. Now we're having issues with the materials because of COVID, getting materials and then material costs. So my suggestion would be stick to cosmetic renovations. Don't over renovate. Don't over renovate. If you're buying and holding these properties, of which you are in a BRRRR method, don't necessarily renovate these properties as if you're going to live in the property. Still renovate them nice. Your tenants are going to want a nice property. Tenants still want granite. I put granite in my rental properties. It's a low grade granite, but I put granite in there. In most of the properties, I actually put stainless steel in there. So I make mine really nice. The stainless steel is kind of a low grade. I use Frigidaire. But tenants tend to, if you give them a nice product, they're going to take care of it. They're going to take care of it because most of them are going to be renting for a long time, and they can help you pay down on your principal, pay your mortgage, and some stay in the property so long they actually pay off your mortgage for you. So you want to treat them nice and give them, a really good product, but don't overdo it. Don't overdo it with the renovations. And I see a lot of people doing that, kind of overdoing it. Know where the renovation money is coming from. Where is the renovation money coming from? Are you putting up that money? Is the hard money lender putting up that money? Is a private lender putting up that money? Before you get started, know where that money is coming from. Also, on the renovations, do your due diligence. Look in the neighborhood. You can look at comps. You can look at other properties on like Zillow and Trulia, Realtor.com to see how the other houses are renovated, what the finishes are that they're using. If they're neighborhoods that don't call for carpet, don't put carpet in there. I don't personally like putting carpet in my renovations, my buy and holds anyway. I actually like putting in either real hardwood floors or engineered hardwood floors because they just last longer. Putting in carpet, I used to put carpet in many years ago, and every time the house would turn over, I would have to replace the carpet. With hardwood, the worst you would have to do. One time I had a tenant with a cat, didn't really know they had a cat, but had a cat. After 2 years, the cat had been urinating in the wood, and we had to get that out, but we kept the hardwood floors. We just sanded it down, and that's the worst. But pretty much, with good hardwood floors or engineered hardwood floors, they last forever. When you're turning over, the most you want to do, really, honestly, is paint. That's it. But if you put good quality into your properties, you don't have to spend that money down the line. You still want to do a scope of work when you're renovating. You want to know, your contractors need to know exactly what you're doing. If the project calls for a draw schedule, the lender's going to require a draw schedule. You're going to have to break down that renovation into, I use 3 draws, could be 2 draws, could be 4 draws. Know the materials. The contractor needs to know what materials you want, what type of vanities, what type of toilets, what type of cabinets, what type of countertops, baseboards, shoe molding, what color paint, all those kinds of things. Do a material list, and do a material list with your contractor when you're renovating. And then set timelines. You have to set timelines with your contractors, because you have a timeline with the lender. If you're borrowing the money from a hard money lender, then you've got a timeline. That loan is going to come due in 6 months. Now, if you're paying cash, and oftentimes I pay cash, I still put myself on a timeline because time is money. I need to renovate that property, get it rented out, get refinanced, and then with the money that I've refinanced, pay everybody back, and then start that process all over again. And so you can't let the contractor or anybody else hold you up. I have a lot of investor partners that I'll ask them, what's going on with your renovation? Oh, I'm just taking my time. Time is not of the essence because they've paid cash for it. But no, we got to get our money, let our money work for us. So have that sense of urgency, set timelines, even when you're using the BRRRR method. Even when you're using the BRRRR method, set timelines. And the biggest thing is just don't go over budget. You're going to set a budget. Let's say your budget is $60,000. Don't go over that budget. Don't go over, because now when you refinance, you've got more money you've got to pay back, and now your money might not work for you. The refinance might not work. All right, BRRRR method. We bought the property right. We've rehabbed the property. House is rehabbed. Now we need to rent the property out. And so who are you going to rent the property out to? So number one, again, we've got to keep moving. We can't hesitate. Let's keep moving. Let's get a renter in there as soon as possible. One thing that investors don't do is they don't run rental comps. Before you even get started with the process, run your rental comps, you guys. Know before you even get started what you're going to be able to rent the property out for. You've gotten pre-approved, hopefully, initially. So now the lender can give you an idea of what your monthly payment is going to be. Now you've got to figure out, you've already figured out your after repair value when you ran your Mayo formula to buy the property right. Now run your comps to rent. You want to make sure that the rent in that area, or what you can rent it for, far exceeds what your monthly payment is going to be. I always like to say, I personally like to start off my rentals at least $500 to $1,000 a month in positive cash flow. That's what I like to start. And so many of you might say, $1,000 a month starting off in positive cash flow? Absolutely. I do that all day long in areas like Baltimore, Maryland, where you can, buy low and rent high. There's not a lot of, you've got to buy with equity in there, but areas like that, I start off with $1,000. At the low end, in areas like Washington, D.C., at the lowest end, I want to start off at $500 positive. So I run my numbers that way. I don't buy the property if I know that, for example, if my monthly payment to the lender, just using easy numbers, is $1,000, my monthly payment is $1,000. And if I can only rent for, let's say, $1,200 in that area, I've got $200 in positive cash flow. That, for me personally, is not a good deal. I've got to be able to rent for at least $1,500, $500 a month in positive cash flow to get started. Knowing in an area like Washington, D.C., I'm also going to get appreciation and equity built up. And so that's my goal. I also, when I'm renting a property, I'd like to start off with 30% to 50% equity in that property. I want to know that I've got equity built in. And so that's part of buying the property right. We like to say that we make our money going in as investors. And basically what that means is we buy the property right with equity already in there. So I want 30% at minimal to 50% equity in the property. If the property value is for example, 400,000, if that's the value, I want my note to be, honestly, I'd like my note to be somewhere around 200,000. I like my note to be somewhere around 240,000, somewhere around there. I want to know that I'm actually walking in with equity. At the most, if the property value is 400, I want to walk in, buy the property where I know I have at least $300,000 in equity. I mean, where my note is 300,000 and it's worth 400,000. That's somewhere around 30%. All right, so on the rentals, I prefer voucher holders. Love voucher holders. Love getting that money in every month. So I like Section 8, and there's other programs out here. I prefer voucher holders or Section 8. I prefer that a lot better than market rate tenants, because at the very least with Section 8 tenants, number one, I know I'm getting my money. So during COVID, during the pandemic, first of the month, every month, I didn't have to worry about like moratoriums on evictions for tenants not paying rent. I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff on my properties where I had Section 8 tenants. Almost every one of my properties where I had a market rate tenant, they weren't paying, or as of this podcast, they're not paying. Now there's programs, especially like in Baltimore, where the city will actually pay the landlord. They'll reimburse the landlord. But for those reasons, Section 8 is it's corona proof, it's recession proof. And so I like looking into the account, knowing that money's in there. I talked to a few of my agent investors last year during kind of the height of the pandemic. And I said, how are you doing? And they said, I just looked in the bank and my money is there from my rental property. So I prefer Section 8. Also Section 8 now, that properties get inspected once a year by Section 8. And if there's things that the tenant, they give a list to the tenants for things that they have to fix. They give a list to the landlord for things that they have to fix. If they come back in 30 days and the tenant hasn't fixed the things that they stipulated, then they kick the tenant out of the program. The tenants know that. And so they keep those properties, they treat those properties like they're theirs. And so so I go by my properties and they keep them up. They keep them up really well. And so you want to go through an application process. I still pull credit, even though I know the tenant, Section 8 is paying. I still want to look at the credit. Sometimes credit just sometimes we'll talk about the credibility of the tenant. Sometimes I'll want references. Sometimes I'll want to actually go see where they're living now and how they're taking care of the property. So when we talk about renting, those are the things that I want you guys to look at. Whether you're using the BRRRR method or not, look at those things when you're renting the property. Just know that property is a business. That's your business. And so you want to take care of your business just like you would take care of your child. You want to nurture that business, that property, take good care of it. Whenever my tenants call me, I go running. I'll call my contractor. There was a pipe in one of my properties yesterday. I had my contractor over there because that's an investment for me. And I want to make sure I take care of it to the point that it's going to feed me now, feed me in retirement, and actually feed me that good cash flow, or feed my daughter that good cash flow, when I pass on those assets to her. And if she treats them right, my grandchildren, will be fed that cash flow. And of course, that equity when they take over the property. All right, so we buy the property, we renovate the property, we rent the property. Now it's time to refinance. And for many, this is the most difficult part, refinance. Because number one, you've got to get approved. You got to get approved for long term. So all the financing I've talked about, either paying cash or using a hard money lender or using a line of credit like a HELOC, that's all short-term financing. And so we want to refinance out to get the money that we put up, whether we put up our own cash or somebody else's cash, so we can pay them back, and that's through a refinance. And so you want to get long-term financing, 30-year loan, 15-year loan, whatever you want to do. You want to get refinanced, but as I said earlier, before you even start the process, get pre-approved first. You don't want to get to this part in the BRRRR method and get stuck. And so get pre-approved first. Initially, know who the lender is going to be. Even have them give you a lender letter and give them the scenario of the property. I'm going to buy the property for this much. I'm going to refinance it for that much. And then I'm going to need you to finance me. How's my credit? You want them to go through all of those things. Here's something I want you to think about, you guys. The lender is not, let's say the property, let's say you pay cash, and a property value, it was appraised, because the lender's going to send out an appraiser. The property was appraised, so let's just say $200,000. The lender is not going to give you the whole $200,000. They're going to give you somewhere between 70% of the $200,000 and 80% of the $200,000. If they give you 70% of the $200,000, that's 140. So they're going to finance you at 140. You've got to make sure that all your numbers work, so that 140 more than pays back the hard money lender, more than pays back the private lender if you got a private lender, more than pays back your line of credit. And so that's why it's so important for you to do the numbers initially, and that's where the mistakes come in, so that all of those numbers work. Now, most lenders are around 75%. If you buy the property at 70% minus repair costs, so you're good there. As long as your numbers work, you're good. You're going to get all that money back. And so that scenario I gave you guys earlier on the property I bought in Annapolis, I got all of my money back, paid back to everybody. And then there was like $20,000 or $30,000 actually left over for me. And I was still able to rent that property out at about $500 a month in positive cash flow. And so that's what I want you to know about refinancing. Get permanent financing. Know that they're not going to finance 100%, only somewhere between 70, depending on the lender, 70 and 80%. I have seen some that will finance you at 85%. Also know that some lenders have what we call a seasoning period or a waiting period. They want you to own the property sometimes for 90 days seasoning or 6 months seasoning. And generally that's not an issue, because it's going to take you 90 days anyway to renovate the property. Most lenders, what I'm seeing is a 90-day seasoning period. I know FHA's 90-day seasoning period. And so, but just know that you can't buy a property today, renovate it, rent it out in, let's say, 2 weeks or 30 days, and then go get refinanced. It's very rare that you'll find a lender that will refinance you that quickly. Oftentimes there is a waiting period, a seasoning period for that. So just keep all that in mind. And so the beauty of the refinance is you get all your money back. So kind of in investment terms, whatever money you put up or a hard money lender put up, you get that back. So we say you actually have a rental property where you actually put up no money, because the money you did put up, you got it all back. And like I said earlier, it's the best of both worlds. Traditionally, a lot of people, a lot of investors, they don't like to buy and hold because it holds all of their cash. But now using the BRRRR method, you're then able to refinance, get your money back, and then start the process all over again. So the last R is to repeat the process. So we've gone through buying a property, renovating the property, renting the property, and then refinancing the property. And then the last R is repeat. You want to repeat the process. Again, you've got the best of both worlds between flipping and buying and holding. You don't have that tax consequence of flipping a property. But like flipping a property, you get cash. And so with the BRRRR method, you actually get your money back. You're able to pay back everybody and start the process all over again. So now the buy and hold is not cash intensive. And it's the best way to use that same money to really build your portfolio. And for many who just have one property, we want to reuse that money for refinance. Actually, if you guys have equity in a property now, you can refinance, take money out, and then go buy a rental property and start this process of using BRRRR. But I highly, highly, highly recommend using BRRRR. Here's some mistakes, you guys. Buying a property, and I mentioned probably all of them, but let me just repeat the mistakes. Number one, not having enough money in your renovation budget. So you want to budget correctly. I like to use that 20% rule, 20% of the after repair value. But you probably should get a contractor in there to give you the exact numbers. Do a draw schedule, do a scope of work, choose the right materials, stay on budget, but make sure you don't go over budget. Do not go over budget. Make sure that you understand the comps. That's another mistake that I see. You've got to run after repair value comps so that you know what the equity is. But then also you've got to run rental comps so that you know how much you can rent that property out initially. This is me. My personal goal is I want to start off renting the property out at about $500 a month in positive cash flow, somewhere between $500 and $1,000 just starting out. Also a mistake, not sticking to the deadline. No sense of urgency. Make sure that you stick to the deadline. You've got deadlines, stick to them. Make sure your contractors know that they have to stick to the deadlines. Make sure that the contractors, I didn't mention this earlier, but make sure your contractors sign an independent contractors agreement. Like have them in writing. Obviously, make sure your contractors are licensed and bonded like any other strategy. All of the nuances of flipping a property apply when you're using the BRRRR method. Not getting pre-approved is obviously a huge mistake. And buying the properties wrong, not using the Mayo formula is a huge mistake, you guys, huge mistake. So those are all the mistakes, just kind of some notes. The BRRRR method actually works with multifamily. So it works with multifamily, whether it's a 2-unit, 4-unit, 10-unit. You can do the same thing. You can borrow money or use your own cash through a hard money lender on a multifamily, renovate that property, completely rent that property out, and then refinance, get all your money back. So you can do that on multifamily, and I see that a lot. And then you can do multiple properties at one time. So I have 4 properties. So I bought 4 properties kind of at the same time. I actually used my cash in Baltimore. All 4 of these were in Baltimore. I bought a property using my own cash in Baltimore, renovated the property, rented it out, and then I waited until the other ones were done. And then what I did, you guys, so I had 4 properties that were kind of all completed at the same time. 2 I used my own cash, 2 I used a hard money lender in Baltimore. And then I refinanced one of my agent investors just recently did this. I refinanced all 4 properties into one loan. I refinanced all into one loan, and it's such a beautiful thing. Paid back all the money, got my money back, and then one property pays for the rent from one property, pays more than pays my note on that property, on that one loan. For the 4 properties, one property actually pays the note for the 4 properties. And then of course the other 3 is just gravy. And so between the 4, I've got like over $300,000. Over $3,000 a month in positive cash flow on that one loan on those 4 properties. And so you can bundle properties up and use the BRRRR method as well. The last thing I want to say about BRRRR is actually 2 things. You know, you're not going to learn everything in this, in this podcast, 40-minute podcast. Study it. Look at YouTube videos. There's books that have been written about it. Study it, learn it. If you want to contact me, you can contact me on Instagram at Greg Bennett Invest. Look at this podcast again. It's going to be on my YouTube channel, Gregory Bennett. But BRRRR, using the BRRRR strategy, building wealth, establishing multiple streams of income, it's all a mindset. It's all a mindset. Like, what's your mindset? What do you want in life? It's all a mindset. And so you've got to be focused on what you want. You want to get it as, the best way possible. You want to be diligent about how you are building your wealth. And so the BRRRR method is one strategy. There's many strategies that you can build your wealth that we use and my students use: creative financing strategies, owner financing, subject to, things like that. But to build true wealth is to buy and hold, and buy and hold the right way, the most efficient way, in my opinion, is the BRRRR method. Buy the property right, renovate the property, rent the property, refinance the property, and repeat that strategy, repeat that process all over again. All right, you guys. Greg Bennett Invest. If you want me to ever help you with this further, if you have properties you want me to vet for you, I can run the comps, the rental comps, the after repair value comps for you. Just hit me up. Look at this video again. Take care, you guys. Thanks for looking at this video, whether you're looking at it live or you go to either my YouTube channel or my podcast. But let this help you. Let this be kind of a starting point so that you can build wealth. There's thousands of people that are using this method and they're building wealth. You need to as well. Take care, you guys. Take care. God bless. And I will talk to you soon.